My older coworker refused to learn new tech, so I stopped covering for her mistakes. She got fired and tried to ruin my career. I'm Lisa, 24F, and I've been working as a bartender at the Old Shack, a popular downtown bar, for about 2 years now. I started this job right after finishing college, where I majored in business management. My plan was to work here for a year or two to save up some money before pursuing my dream of opening my own restaurant. But life has a funny way of changing your plans. I fell in love with the fast-paced environment of the bar, the camaraderie with my coworkers, and the satisfaction of crafting the perfect drink for a customer. The tips weren't bad either. So, I decided to stick around longer than I initially planned. Plus, our manager, Marcus, 35M, has been mentoring me on the business side of things, which has been invaluable experience. The Old Shack has been a fixture in our town for over 30 years. It's one of those places that's seen generations of families come through its doors. We've got regulars who've been coming here since before I was born, and now their kids are starting to become regulars too. It's got that perfect mix of dive bar charm and modern amenities that keeps people coming back. Most of my coworkers are great. There's Zeke, 26M, who's been here almost as long as I have. He's the life of the party, always ready with a joke or a story to keep the customers entertained. Carol, 29F, is our resident mixologist. She's constantly experimenting with new cocktail recipes and has even gotten a few of her creations on our permanent menu. But then there's Brenda, 58F. Brenda's been working at the Old Shack for over 15 years, longer than any of us. She likes to remind us of this fact frequently. When I first started, Brenda took me under her wing. She showed me the ropes, taught me how to deal with rowdy customers, and shared her tricks for remembering complex drink orders. I was grateful for her guidance, and we got along well. That all changed about 6 months ago when the Old Shack upgraded to a new digital point-of-sale (POS) system. The old system was ancient. We were still using handwritten tickets for orders and a clunky old cash register. Marcus decided it was time to modernize, and I was thrilled. The new system would make everything more efficient, from taking orders to managing inventory. But Brenda hated it from day one. She complained constantly about how unnecessary it was, how the old system worked just fine, how this new gadget was just going to slow everything down. I tried to be patient. I showed her how to use the system multiple times, wrote down step-by-step instructions, and even stayed late a few nights to help her practice. But Brenda just doesn't seem interested in learning. "Oh, I'm too old for this newfangled stuff," she'd say with a dismissive wave of her hand. Or, "Back in my day, we didn't need computers to pour drinks. We used our memory and good old-fashioned customer service." At first, Marcus was understanding. He gave Brenda extra training time and even offered to pay her for additional hours spent learning the system. But as weeks turned into months, and Brenda's mistakes kept piling up, his patience began to wear thin. The problem is, her errors are starting to affect everyone else. She'll ring up orders wrong, forget to close out tabs, and sometimes even charge the wrong amounts to people's cards. And guess who always has to fix her mistakes? Yep, me. It's gotten to the point where I dread working shifts with Brenda because I know I'll spend half my time correcting her errors instead of serving my own customers. Last Saturday night was particularly busy. We had a bachelor party, a few birthday celebrations, and our usual weekend crowd. I was running around like crazy, trying to keep up with drink orders and manage my section. Brenda was working the main bar, and I could see her getting flustered with the system. Around midnight, Brenda called me over, saying she needed help with a tab. I quickly glanced at the screen and saw that she had accidentally closed out a $200 tab for a group that was still at the bar. I told her she needed to void the transaction and reopen the tab, but she just stared at me blankly. "Can't you just fix it for me, sweetie?" she asked, already turning away to mix a drink. "You know I'm not good with this computer stuff." I was about to protest when I heard someone calling for a drink order. I sighed and told Brenda I'd deal with it later. The night continued to be chaotic, and I completely forgot about the tab issue until closing time. As we were cleaning up, Marcus called me over. He showed me the discrepancy in the system. The $200 tab that Brenda had closed out early was still open, and the group had left without paying. Marcus asked me what happened, and I explained the situation with Brenda. Marcus looked frustrated but not surprised. He called Brenda over, and they had a long conversation in his office. When Brenda came out, she looked upset and immediately cornered me by the supply closet. "Thanks a lot, Lisa," she hissed. "Marcus is cutting my hours because of your little stunt." I was shocked. "My stunt? Brenda, you're the one who made the mistake. I tried to help you, but you brushed me off." Brenda's face turned red. "Well, why didn't you fix it then? You know I'm not good with that computer stuff. You should have taken care of it." I was busy serving customers, I replied, trying to keep my cool. It's not my job to fix all your mistakes. It's called being a team player, Brenda snapped. I've been working here since before you were born. Show some respect. At this point, I'd had enough. Respect goes both ways, Brenda. I've tried to help you countless times, but you refuse to learn. Your mistakes are affecting all of us. Maybe if you actually tried to improve instead of relying on everyone else to clean up your messes, you wouldn't be in this situation. Brenda looked like I'd slapped her. Without another word, she grabbed her purse and stormed out. The next day, I got texts from a few coworkers saying I was too harsh on Brenda. Zeke wrote, "Come on, Lisa. Brenda's been here forever. You could have covered for her just this once." Carol chimed in with, "I know Brenda can be difficult, but she's like family here. Maybe you should have paid the $200 yourself to avoid getting her in trouble." I feel like I'm taking crazy pills here. Am I really the asshole for not covering up Brenda's mistake? Should I have paid $200 out of my own pocket for something that wasn't my fault? That's a lot of money for me. I'm still paying off student loans and trying to save up for my own place. I don't want to be a bad coworker, but I also don't think it's fair for me to constantly fix Brenda's mistakes without any consequences for her. I've spent hours trying to help her learn the system, and she's shown zero interest in improving. How long are we supposed to keep covering for her? Part of me feels guilty. Brenda's been at the old shack for so long, and I know the bar means a lot to her. She's always talking about how it's like a second home to her. I remember when I first started and she'd tell me stories about all the regulars, about how she'd watched some of them grow up, and now their kids were coming to the bar. She really cares about this place and its history. But another part of me is just frustrated. We're not living in the past anymore. The bar needs to keep up with the times if we want to stay competitive. And Brenda's mistakes aren't just inconvenient, they're costing the bar money and potentially driving away customers. I'm also worried about my own position. I've been taking on more responsibilities lately, and Marcus has hinted that he's considering me for a promotion to shift supervisor. But if I'm constantly having to clean up after Brenda, how can I focus on my own growth and development? I can't help but think about my own dreams too. I still want to open my own restaurant someday, and every shift I spend fixing Brenda's mistakes is time I'm not spending learning about the business side of things from Marcus. Am I being selfish? Should I have just paid the $200 and kept quiet? Or was I right to let Marcus know what's been going on? I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place here. Ida? Edit, wow, this blew up overnight. Thanks for all the responses. I'll try to address some common questions/comments. Yes, I've tried to teach Brenda multiple times. I've even offered to come in early or stay late to help her practice with the system. She always has an excuse or says she'll get to it later. Our bar policy is that if a server makes a mistake, like undercharging, they're responsible for covering the difference. However, this usually applies to small amounts, not $200 tabs. I'll post an update after my next shift to let you know how things are going with Brenda and the rest of the staff. Update 1. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support and advice. A lot has happened since my last post, so buckle up for a long update. I had my next shift 2 days after the incident. When I walked into the old shack, the atmosphere was noticeably tense. Some of my coworkers, particularly the older ones who've known Brenda for years, were giving me the cold shoulder. I overheard whispers about me being a snitch and throwing Brenda under the bus. As I was setting up the bar, I noticed a few of our regulars huddled at the end, talking in hushed tones. One of them, Old Joe, we call him that because he's been coming here since the bar opened, caught my eye and shook his head disapprovingly. It stung a bit. Old Joe and I usually have a great rapport, and he's always been kind to me. Marcus, our manager, pulled me aside before we opened. He thanked me for being honest about what happened and assured me that I wasn't in any trouble. He also mentioned that he'd been aware of Brenda's ongoing issues with the system and that this incident was the last straw. Lisa, he said, looking tired, I know this isn't easy. Brenda's been here a long time, and change is hard for some people. But we can't keep operating like this. It's not fair to you, it's not fair to the other staff, and it's certainly not fair to our customers. I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and guilt. I never wanted to get her in trouble, Marcus. I've tried so hard to help her. Marcus patted my shoulder. I know you have. And that's why I'm considering you for that shift supervisor position we talked about. You've shown real leadership through all of this. About an hour into my shift, the door burst open, and Brenda stormed in. She wasn't scheduled to work, but she marched straight up to the bar where I was mixing drinks. Her eyes were red and puffy, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Are you happy now? She demanded loudly, her voice cracking. I can't pay my rent this month because of you. The bar fell silent. I could feel everyone's eyes on us. I tried to stay calm, very aware of the customers watching the scene unfold. Brenda, I'm sorry you're struggling, but this isn't my fault. You made a mistake, and she cut me off, her voice rising. A mistake? I've given 15 years of my life to this place. I was here when you were still in diapers. How dare you treat me like this? By this point, customers were openly staring. Some looked uncomfortable, while others seemed almost entertained by the drama. I saw old Joe shake his head again and mutter something to his drinking buddy. Marcus came over and tried to defuse the situation. Brenda, please. This isn't the time or place for this. Why don't we go to my office and talk? But Brenda was on a roll. She turned to the customers at the bar. Do you all know what's happening here? They're pushing out the old to make way for the young and pretty. Is that the kind of place you want to drink at? A few of the regulars shifted uncomfortably in their seats. I felt my face burning with embarrassment and frustration. You know what? I quit, Brenda shouted, dramatically throwing her apron on the floor. I hope you're all happy with your fancy computer system. Good luck finding someone with my experience. She stormed out, leaving us all in shocked silence. The only sound was the muted music playing from the speakers and the awkward shuffling of feet. Marcus quickly reassigned her section, and we tried to get back to work, but the incident had cast a shadow over the whole night. I spent the rest of my shift in a daze, mechanically mixing drinks and forcing smiles for the customers. Every time the door opened, I tensed up, half expecting Brenda to come storming back in. After closing, Marcus called a staff meeting. He explained that Brenda's outburst was unprofessional and that her quitting was her own decision. He also addressed the rumors that had been circulating. Lisa did nothing wrong, he said firmly. She's been trying to help Brenda for months. We can't keep covering for someone who refuses to learn and adapt. It's not fair to the rest of you or to our customers. Some of my coworkers looked ashamed, while others still seemed skeptical. Zeke, who had texted me earlier criticizing my actions, spoke up. But Brenda's been here forever, he argued. She's like the heart and soul of this place. Doesn't that count for something? Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. Loyalty is important, but so is competence. We can't run a business on nostalgia. Times change, and we need to change with them. The meeting ended on a somber note. As we were leaving, Carol, who had also criticized me earlier, approached me. I'm sorry, she said quietly, not quite meeting my eyes. I didn't realize how bad things had gotten with Brenda. It wasn't fair to blame you. I appreciated her apology, but I still felt uneasy. Brenda had been a fixture at the bar for so long, and now she was gone. I couldn't help but wonder if I could have handled things differently. Maybe if I'd been more patient, or if I'd pushed harder for her to learn. As I walked to my car, I saw a text from an unknown number. It was Brenda. I hope you're satisfied, it read. You've ruined my life? I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of person you really are. My hands shook as I showed the text to Marcus, who advised me to block the number and document any further contact. He said he'd handle it if Brenda tried to cause any more problems. I'm feeling a mix of emotions right now. Relief that the situation with Brenda is over, guilt over how it ended, and anxiety about what she might do next. I know I didn't do anything wrong, but it's hard not to second-guess myself. The old shack has always felt like a second home to me, a place where I could be myself and connect with people. Now, it feels different. There's a tension in the air, an undercurrent of unease. I catch some of the regulars looking at me differently, and I wonder if they blame me for Brenda's departure. I'm also worried about how this will affect my career prospects. Marcus mentioned the shift supervisor position again, but will he still consider me after all this drama? And what about my long-term goal of opening my own place? Will this incident follow me in our small town's hospitality circle? I'll keep you updated if anything else happens. Thanks again for all your support. It means more than you know during this stressful time. Update 2. Hey everyone, it's been about 2 weeks since my last update, and things have escalated. First, the good news, work has actually been running much smoother without Brenda. Our sales are up, there are fewer mistakes with orders, and the overall atmosphere is more positive. Marcus hired 2 new bartenders, both in their late 20s, who picked up the POS system quickly. It's been a relief not to constantly worry about fixing someone else's mistakes. I've been training the new hires, which has been a nice distraction from all the drama. One of them, Alex, 27M, has become a quick study and a good friend. He's got a dry sense of humor that keeps me laughing even during the busiest shifts. Now, the not-so-good news, Brenda has been on a warpath. It started with a series of negative reviews on our bar's social media pages. They were all clearly written by the same person. Brenda isn't great at disguising her writing style, claiming that the bar mistreats its older employees and that the service has gone downhill. Some of them specifically mentioned me by name, calling me a backstabber and a ruthless climber. Then, she started showing up during busy hours, sitting at the bar and loudly complaining about the service to anyone who would listen. She'd make snide comments whenever I passed by, things like, "Oh, watch out, the computer whiz is here." Or "Don't make any mistakes, or Lisa will get you fired." It's been incredibly stressful. I've tried to maintain a professional demeanor, but it's hard when someone is actively trying to undermine you. Some of our regulars have started to avoid coming in when Brenda's there, not wanting to get caught in the drama. Marcus has asked her to leave several times, but she always comes back. He's considering getting a restraining order, but he's hesitant because of her long history with the bar. "She's been coming here for decades," he told me with a sigh. "I hate to be the one to ban her for life." The situation came to a head last Friday night. We were packed, with a line out the door. I was in the zone, mixing drinks and chatting with customers. Alex and I had a good rhythm going, and for a moment, I felt like things were finally getting back to normal. Suddenly, I heard a commotion at the other end of the bar. I looked up to see Brenda, clearly intoxicated, trying to climb over the bar. "I'll show you how a real bartender works." She was shouting, her words slurred. "Not like these computer-dependent kids." Marcus and Zeke managed to stop her before she made it over, but not before she knocked over a whole tray of glasses. The crash was spectacular, and the entire bar went silent. I could see the shock and disappointment on the faces of our regulars, especially old Joe, who had always been fond of Brenda. As Marcus was escorting Brenda out, she turned and pointed at me. "This is all your fault," she screamed, mascara running down her face. "You ruined everything. I hope you're happy, you little witch." The police were called, and Brenda was arrested for disorderly conduct. Marcus is pressing charges for the damage to the bar. It's a mess, to say the least. I feel terrible about the whole situation. Yes, Brenda made mistakes and refused to learn, but seeing her spiral like this is heartbreaking. Some of our regular customers who knew Brenda have been asking about her, and it's awkward trying to explain what happened without badmouthing her. On the other hand, I'm angry. I tried to help her so many times, and this is how she repays me? By trying to sabotage the bar and publicly humiliating herself? It's like she's determined to prove that she was wronged, even if it means destroying her own reputation in the process. I'm not sure what's going to happen next. Marcus says he'll handle the legal stuff, but he's worried about the bar's reputation. Some of us are thinking about organizing a fundraiser to show that we're still a positive part of the community. As for me, I'm just trying to focus on my job and not let this drama affect me. But it's hard when the person you're in conflict with seems determined to bring you down. I've started looking over my shoulder when I leave work, half expecting Brenda to jump out and confront me. Alex has been a great support through all of this. He's offered to walk me to my car after late shifts, and he always seems to know when I need a laugh or a sympathetic ear. I'm grateful for his friendship, especially now when some of my other coworkers still seem unsure about whose side they should be on. I'll update again if there are any major developments. Thanks for listening, everyone. It helps to know I have some support out there, even if it's just from internet strangers. Update 3. Hey everyone, it's been about a month since my last update, and I hope, this will be the final chapter in the Brenda saga. After the barroom incident, things calmed down for a bit. Brenda was facing legal troubles, so she stayed away from the bar. We all breathed a sigh of relief and tried to move on. The old shack started to feel like home again, and our regular customers slowly began to return in full force. I've settled into my new role as shift supervisor. It's been challenging but rewarding. Marcus has been teaching me more about the business side of running a bar, and I'm starting to see a future for myself in this industry that goes beyond just bartending. However, about 2 weeks ago, I received a surprising phone call from a woman named Amy, who introduced herself as Brenda's daughter. She apologized for her mother's behavior and asked if we could meet for coffee. Curious and a bit apprehensive, I agreed. We met at a small cafe down the street from the old shack. Amy looked exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes and a worried frown that seemed permanent. As we sat down with our coffees, she started to explain the situation. It turns out that Brenda had been struggling with more than just technological challenges. Apparently, she'd been dealing with undiagnosed hearing loss for years, which made it difficult for her to understand instructions or communicate effectively in the noisy bar environment. The stress of trying to hide this, combined with her fear of losing her job, had led to her erratic behavior. Amy also revealed that Brenda had been supporting her through college and was terrified of losing her income. This explained why she was so desperate to keep her job, even when she was clearly struggling. "Mom's always been proud," Amy said, stirring her coffee absently. She didn't want anyone to know she was having trouble, especially not financially. I felt a mix of emotions hearing this, Sympathy for Brenda's situation, frustration that she never confided in anyone, and a bit of guilt for not noticing these underlying issues. It made me think about how often we might misjudge people's actions without knowing the full story. Amy asked if I would be willing to talk to Brenda. After some hesitation, I agreed. We set up a meeting at a neutral location, a park near the bar where Brenda and I used to sometimes eat lunch together during slow afternoons. The meeting was tense, to say the least. Brenda started off defensive, her arms crossed and her eyes avoiding mine. But as we talked, she began to open up. She admitted that she was embarrassed by her difficulties with the new system and that her pride had prevented her from accepting help. She also apologized for her behavior after leaving the job. I was scared, she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. This job. This bar. It's been my whole life for so long. I didn't know who I was without it. I explained my side of things, how her refusal to learn had affected the whole team, and how her actions after quitting had been hurtful and unprofessional. It wasn't an easy conversation, but I think we both walked away with a better understanding of each other. Brenda won't be coming back to work at the bar, that bridge is well and truly burned. But she's agreed to write a public apology for her behavior and retract her negative reviews. In return, Marcus has agreed to drop the charges for the barroom incident. As for me, this whole experience has been a real eye-opener. It's made me realize the importance of clear communication and not making assumptions about people's motivations. I've also learned to stand up for myself while still trying to understand where others are coming from. The bar is doing well now. Our new hires have settled in nicely, and we've even expanded our cocktail menu. I've taken on some additional responsibilities, including training new staff on the POS system. Last night, as I was closing up, old Joe came in for a nightcap. He sat at the bar and watched me work for a while before speaking. You know, kid, he said, swirling the ice in his glass, this place has changed a lot over the years. But change isn't always bad. You're doing good work here. Coming from old Joe, that meant a lot. It made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I was starting to find my place in the long and complex history of the old shack.